if somebody messed up, the whole team would have to run extra sprints, and the coach would often say, you're spoiling it for everybody. You know, a few years ago, we passed the Great American Outdoors Act, and it was with great bipartisan support, and we had lofty ideas of how this will be transformational across the country. And Director Sams, I know that you're in a situation where you just kind of have to probably do what you're told on a lot of things, but last year, the National Park Service provided $102.2 million for the San Francisco National Maritime Historical Park. This was the second most expensive project funded. Can you tell me which congressional district this project is located in?
It is in Congresswoman, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi's district.
Right, California 11, represented by Speaker Pelosi. National Park Service also gave $63.5 million to the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, the fourth most expensive project funded last year. Do you know which congressional district that project is in?
I cannot recall off the top of my head.
That's former Speaker Pelosi's district as well. The National Park Service received $200 million in the Inflation Reduction Act last year for deferred maintenance at the National Park Service. Can you tell us how that money was used?
That money went to the Presidio Trust, and they are using it on their deferred maintenance because they are not eligible for GOA funding.
So where's the Presidio Trust located?
It is within the boundaries of the national area that we.
In whose congressional district?
That is also in former Speaker Pelosi's district.
In total, the National Park Service spent more than $365 million last year on deferred maintenance in Nancy Pelosi's district, which is almost a quarter. It's 24% of the total funding your agency received last year to address deferred maintenance nationwide. Do you know how many states have deferred maintenance backlogs that could have been fully addressed using this funding?
Not off the top of my head, no.
It's 37, including my home state of Arkansas. This $200 million earmark orchestrated by Nancy Pelosi represents a 3,113% increase in the amount of federal funding received by the Presidio last year. As you can see by the charts behind me, I'm not exactly sure where the deferred maintenance even is in the Presidio. Director Sams, yes or no? When you transferred this money to the Presidio, did you put any restrictions in place stipulating that taxpayer funding could not be used to improve the Presidio's golf courses or luxury hotels?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
This $200 million earmark from the IRA for the Presidio was originally announced on February 1st, 2023 in a press release put out by Nancy Pelosi's office. The Presidio Trust official government website then posted the exact same release with a link to Nancy Pelosi's website, which is still up today. This release included a quote from Jean Frazier, the CEO of the Presidio Trust, who you transferred this money to from the IRA. Ms. Frazier is quoted as saying, this funding will be used to, quote, lay the foundation for the Presidio to be a zero climate impact park. Director Sams, is creating a zero climate impact park a recognized category of deferred maintenance used by the National Park Service?
It is not with the GOA money that we use.
Would you repeat that?
It is not with the GOA money that we use.
Can you explain that a little bit? It's
Well,
not
the money
with,
that the Great American Outdoors funding that we implement, that is not one of the priority areas that we're using that for.
okay, but the $200 million for deferred maintenance,
Through the
that
IRA
was the
funds.
earmark, yeah. Is that a,
My understanding is the Presidio has $400 million in deferred maintenance. When I toured it last year, a number of that has to do with the electrical, water, and sewer throughout the system that had been left behind when it had been a military base.
and when the Presidio was set up, was there supposed to be government funding to go to it?
I do not know the details of the
Now,
Presidio.
there wasn't supposed to be taxpayer dollars. Can you think of any other example of deferred maintenance funding being announced by a congressional office instead of the National Park Service?
No, sir.
Can you think of any other instance in which the National Park Service has posted a press release containing partisan attacks originally released by a congressional office on its own website?
No, sir.
Did the National Park Service apply the same standards and methodology for selecting priority deferred maintenance projects with the $200 million provided in the IRA that was used for the Presidio as you do with projects that receive funding under the Great American Outdoors Act?
No, sir. The funding that came through IRA for the $200 million, we understand was congressional intent for us to send that to the Presidio Trust since they were not eligible for GOA funding.
So 200 million here and then another 165 million, and before you know it, almost a quarter of the country's expenses for deferred maintenance ended up in one congressional district. I think that's unacceptable, and it goes against the intent of the Great American Outdoors Act, and it's why we should not have earmarks like that, and why we fought those earmarks in this committee, but they were put in anyway. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back. I'm out of time.
Gentleman yields back.